Well, hi there, church. It's great to see you again. My name's Matt Levett. I'm a friend of many of you at St Augustine's, and I work in and out of the diocesan offices. Most of you will know by now that I love youth work. I love my job. I love working with young people. I love helping churches love their young people well. But I've also got another passion in my life. Since the age of about 8 years old, I've had this immersive love affair with superheroes, especially Wonder Woman. At home, I've got shelves and shelves of graphic novels, and until very recently, boxes and boxes of comics, superhero comics. You know, as a child, I saved my pocket money to buy them. I've been to comic conventions. I even stood on Jonathan Ross's foot as he bought a near mint edition of a comic at nearly £100,000. You know, my mum and dad used to complain at the amount of money I spent on them. And the young people that I work with, they often laugh at my kind of geeky love of the DC and Marvel superhero universes. But as you immerse yourselves in the world of superheroes, and perhaps you've been doing that during this lockdown, maybe you've gone on a superhero film, movie, marathon watch. But as you immerse yourselves in their world, you realize that the parallels between faith and the comic universe are often too close to simply ignore. The relationship between comic books and faith are inextricably linked at times. So imagine how excited I get when there's a new superhero movie out. It's like my two favourite things together in one. As I said, you've probably seen a superhero movie, even if you're not into them. And I want to talk just for a moment before we delve into the Bible. I want to talk just for a moment about the ultimate superhero, the Man of Steel, the most instantly famous and recognizable superhero of them all, Superman. There's probably a picture of him just up there. When I was about 9 years old, I convinced myself that I could fly. I've got a twin brother, and he was a little more sensible than me. He was like, nah, of course he can't. But anyway, I found myself up a tree opposite our tree house, about 20 foot in the air. And I convinced myself that I could make it from this tree to the tree house. My brother tried to stop me, but I jumped and I fell. And the agony I was in was incredible. But the only thing scarier than falling out of a tree was telling my mum that I'd been climbing the tree. You know, ever since I was a child, superheroes have had a grip on me. And ever since I became a Christian when I was about 17 or 18 years old, superheroes continue to have a grip on me. None more so than Superman. Well, when you delve into the story of Superman, you actually begin to see the story of our faith. In many, many ways, he's paralleled to Jesus. In fact, I don't know if you know this, but he was created by two Jewish boys sitting in the back of synagogue Sunday school who were getting bored, and they wrote the story. And his story is a very familiar one to us. Superman's father, Jor-El, sent him to Earth to save and protect the people of Earth. Maybe that is the initial Bible story. And Jor-El conjures up the Hebrew word El for God. And Superman's parents were originally Mary and Joseph, later became Martha and Joseph. And indeed, when you listen carefully to the transcript and the soundtrack of the superhero films, you begin to see just a little bit more. In the latest Superman movie, Superman Returns, this is what's said. They can be a great people, Kal-El. They wish to be. They only lack the light to show them the way. For this reason, for their capacity for good, I'm sending you to them, my only son. Sounds like it could come from the Bible, doesn't it? And of course, most of you will know the big S that appears on Superman's chest. We tend to think of that means S for Superman. But those of us in the know, we know that's not what it stands for. The S is actually Kryptonian for hope. And you see, when Superman's around, hope is there. Whatever dangerous situation you find yourself in, be it car crash or train wreck or falling from a building or intergalactic invaders, when you see the S symbol coming, you know that hope is just round the corner. Salvation is coming. And it's that word hope that I want to concentrate on for the rest of our time together. What does hope mean to you? Maybe specifically, what does it mean to you right here, right now, during this COVID lockdown? When we're moving out of a time of perhaps fear and worry and into a time we don't know what's happening. Maybe you feel hopeless. Maybe you're hoping that somehow your summer holiday can be rescued. Actually, hope is really important for us as human beings. Philosophers and psychologists argue that it's actually deep, deep within our human psyche. At its root, it's what keeps us going. It's what keeps us working and relating and hoping for something better. Survival experts, people like Bear Grylls and Ray Mears, they say that once we've gathered the very basics for human life, food and water and shelter, the next essential thing is hope. And those that lose hope are the ones who die very quickly in survival situations. And if you talk to medical practitioners in hospitals and doctors' surgeries, they often wonder at those that seem to die when perhaps the medical condition says they shouldn't, and those that seem to live on when everything else says they should have died. And it's something to do with hope and a desire to live on that makes the difference. In our world, we tend to use the word hope as a kind of a wishful thinking for something that we want to occur. I hoped that Liverpool would win the league, and they did. We hope for sunnier days. We hope that the latest movie to come out is good. Even more serious circumstances are kind of a wishful hope. I hope the disease will be cured. I hope I can pay the mortgage this month. I hope I can trust them again. And even the most pessimistic and melancholy of us as people hope. But it's what we place our hope in that marks us out as different. There's a verse in a story in the Bible, in the book of Job, which is a story about a guy who had every human reason to give up hope. There's a verse, chapter 8, verse 13, that simply says, "Those who forget God have no hope." When we look at our world, perhaps what we see is a world that's lacking in hope. And maybe as a little aside, maybe what we offer as a people of hope, of people of faith to the world, is hope. The church is the living hope. Maybe a lot of the other needs that the world has, the world can meet, food banks and financial aid and etc. But it kind of lacks the hope that we can offer. The Bible says those who forget God have no hope. So therefore, the most hope-filled people on the planet should be those of us that have trusted in God. And biblical hope isn't just blind optimism. It's not wishful thinking. It's not the whipping up of some kind of positive thinking. No, the Christian hope is something different. The Christian has a hope that is the assurance of things hoped for and a conviction of things not yet seen. The book of Hebrews. It's a hope that, like faith, can't really be moved by the circumstances we find ourselves in, or whether we can see beyond where we are right now. In the Bible, faith and hope are held together. They're often spoken about together. Biblical hope is kind of like the byproduct of, or the outworking of faith. The hope is like a joy. It's an anticipation of the certainty of what is to come. A bit like an usher ushering in guests for a wedding feast, anticipating the joy and the love that is about to happen. We don't know when the bride will arrive. Often it's later than we expect, but it's going to happen. You know, the biblical word for hope, especially in the New Testament, is a hope that is really sure and steadfast. In fact, it's so certain that it's expressed in a past perfect tense, meaning we're so sure that this thing is going to happen that it's like it already has happened. It's a shelter, it's a refuge, it's something we take hold of. In that strange way, hope is more something that we do rather than something that we have. Biblical hope is something we act upon rather than something we look to gain. When Paul writes in Romans chapter 8, when he's writing about Jesus, he says, in this hope we are saved. It's a hope that's not seen. For who hopes in what we see? But we wait in patience, because if God is for us, who can be against us? Of course, we can't see it yet. We can't see the full outworking of our faith. If we could, well, it wouldn't be faith and it wouldn't be hope. But our hope is in an inheritance that is imperishable and undefiled and unfading. Our hope is in the promises of God, lived out in his character in Jesus. That God is loving and gracious. That he is slow to anger and rich in love. That he is unchanging, that he is good, that he is just and merciful, that he is faithful and will complete what he has started. And as I said, those promises of God are worked out and lived out in the person and work of Jesus Christ. The reason we have biblical hope is not a wish fulfillment, but it's rooted in his death and resurrection. And our hope isn't for more wealth, it's not for greater health, it's not for a better husband or wife, or to win the lottery, or to get 10 A stars in the now non-existent GCSEs. Our hope is that one day we will meet with him. One day we will be ushered in like a bride. One day we will spend eternity with him and with all those who have hope in Jesus and his death and resurrection. Jesus was the personification of hope to every single person he met. All of them seemed to lack hope. All felt hopeless, and Jesus turned that hopelessness into hope. Hope is for now. Hope is for today. Hope is for tomorrow too. Hope is for tomorrow morning and for next week and for next year. It's for inside lockdown and out of it, because we have a living hope.